Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Philadelphia, let's go. You know, we have an election coming up. A lot of people don't know that. But we do have an important election on Tuesday, November the 4th, and I believe that this election is the most important election in our lifetime. The stakes are getting higher. I'd like to thank you for being here today. We are proud to announce the official rollout of our redesigned provisional ballot envelope and a more important step toward making voting in Philadelphia simpler, clearer, and more accessible for the voters and poll workers. Our goal was to remove and reduce errors, particularly in provisional voting, where mistakes can result in disqualified ballots. The updated envelope design is the result of extensive feedback from election officials, voters, and accessibility advocates. And I would like to thank our staff. Make some noise for our staff, City Commissioner staff. Come on, y'all. For working tirelessly around the clock to get this done. And what are the key improvements? It simplifies the layout. It's a clear labeling and organization, and a signature field for visibility. Improved instructions, accessibility, and visibility enhancements on why this matters. This is more than just a design upgrade. This change reduces ballot rejection rates, saves times during the tabulation process, and ensures every eligible vote is counted. It also gives poll workers an easier tool to guide voters through provisional voting with fewer errors. We encourage all voters and election workers to review this new design, which will be available at all voting sites starting this election cycle. If you have any questions or would like to see a sample of the envelope, materials are available here today. And thank you again for supporting a stronger, more accessible democracy. And I have the honor of introducing a friend of Philadelphia. He, of course, was a hero that stood with us in 2020. And he's a colleague, he's a friend, and he's a neighbor in the city of Philadelphia. I'm proud to bring on our Secretary of the Commonwealth, Al Schmidt.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. I'm honored to be here, or I'm honored to be back here with my two former colleagues who I've worked closely with over the years, Chairman Sabir and Commissioner Bluestein. Today, we're introducing a redesign of the provisional ballot envelopes voters use when they show up at the polling place on Election Day to cast their vote. They can now be used by counties across the Commonwealth, beginning with this November election. This is the latest step by the Pennsylvania Department of State, our county partners who have worked together and taken reduced the number of rejected ballots so to reduce the likelihood of voter error. This update follows the Shapiro administration's commitment to the successful redesign of the mail-in ballot envelopes and materials that we did last year. That resulted in a 57% decrease in ballots being rejected that were cast by mail-in ballots. We still have about 30% of all ballots cast by provisional ballot at the polling place that are rejected, and there are a number of reasons for that. And some of them are ones that can only be approached through voter education or voter outreach and training and things like that. And that is that sometimes people will show up to vote and they're not registered to vote, so their vote can't be counted. Again, only voter education can really do something about that to make sure that they register in advance of Election Day. But other than that, the most common reason is mistakes made by either the voter or the polling place officials when completing the mail-in ballot materials at the polling place. This redesign that we're announcing today has been the result, as Chairman Sabir said, of feedback that we received from counties across Pennsylvania, but really led by Philadelphia. The new envelope features and layout provide clearer instructions to voters. So when they fill them out, they're filled out correctly, and very importantly, it also streamlines the process for accepting and submitting ballots for election board workers at the polling place, and clearly identifying all the fields that have to be completed for that ballot to count. And it's an understandably challenging situation on election day. You have, especially in presidential elections, lines of people and poll workers who are working for more than 13 hours a day to make sure that voters can cast their vote and have them counted. So it's important that the instructions and materials are as clear as they can possibly be to reduce the likelihood of voters making an error. We believe that these changes in provisional ballot materials will have a positive impact, just as we did with mail-in ballots in the last 2 years. Every eligible registered voter in Pennsylvania should have the opportunity to cast their vote and to have their vote counted. This redesign will help achieve that goal. I want to thank the City of Philadelphia, the City Commissioners of Philadelphia in particular, and the hardworking staff at the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office, and our county election officials who work so closely together to make this possible. In my years as a county election official, I remember complaining about the Pennsylvania Department of State at times. And they would say, you know, we're partners, right? But it didn't necessarily always feel like a partnership. So it's been the commitment of this administration in Harrisburg to make sure that we work with our counties closely, to make sure we hear what our counties have to say about how we can be best supportive of their effort and their important job that only they can do. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for being here. It is an honor to be up here with Chairman Sabir and Secretary Schmidt. I want to thank the chairman in particular for his leadership back this past winter when the idea was brought to him and to the board to redesign the provisional ballot envelope, and his support really moved that forward. I'd also like to thank our communications lead, A.M. Libresco, our former Deputy Solicitor, Allison Storr, and Rob Beecher from the Department of State for their vision in getting this accomplished and working with the partners from the other counties, in particular Berks, Butler, Greene, and Mercer counties, in making this design usable for every county across the Commonwealth. I'm extremely proud of the work that went into redesigning this envelope. Improvements to envelope design might seem like a small thing, but it has a huge impact on the ability for Pennsylvanians across the Commonwealth to have their votes counted. It makes a big difference. Since I've become commissioner, we've made every effort to ensure that immaterial errors on envelopes do not impact the ability for every Pennsylvanian to have their vote counted. It is essential that every single person who tries to participate in our election, if they are eligible to vote, has the ability to do so. This redesign is just one more step in that direction, in making voting more accessible for everyone. We have an important election coming up, as the chairman said, some important dates for every voter to be aware of for the November 4th election. October 20th, Monday, October 20th is the deadline to register to vote. And Tuesday, October 28th is the deadline to apply for your mail ballot if you're choosing to vote by mail. You can go to our website at vote.phila.gov for more information. Thank you. Bill, can you repeat that?
Chairman, can you elaborate on the changes that were made on this ballot compared to the old?
Sure. Khalid, can you grab the older one, please? So this is current envelope, and this is the redesigned envelope. So in it, it just makes it, like I say, a lot easier for the poll workers. And one of the things, we simplified the layout, and there's clear labeling and organization, and that signature field for visibilities, and we improved our instructions, and the accessible and visibility enhancement was definitely improved. And the reason why, like I said, it's so important that when we come to adjudication and we're voting on them, we've seen some of these small mistakes. And this is the feedback from the voters, the poll workers, these are the changes that they suggested that we made, and we together collaboratively work together to make the changes to make it easier for everyone.
You said it was 30% on spoil rate. What's the spoil rate in Philadelphia?
Well, I don't have that available right now. Maybe you may have it, that number? Maybe?
We can get back to you with the exact number. It is comparable in Philadelphia to the rest of the Commonwealth. One of the reasons that voters' ballots are not counted when they vote provisionally is because they are required to sign the envelope in 2 spaces. So you can see in this envelope that we currently use, it's not as clear where they should put 2 separate signatures, whereas on the new envelope design, there's symbols here that make it very clear where the voters need to sign, with very clear instructions on the envelope that they must sign the envelope twice. That is one of the main reasons why a voter's ballot is not counted, and we are trying to impact that by making it simpler for the voters and clearer so we can count as many of their votes as possible.
I think some readers might not understand why is provisional ballot necessary.
Sure. Let's just say you're at your job, polls close at 8 p.m. Your polling location is in South Philadelphia, but you work all the way in the far northeast. And your boss asks you to take an extra shift, and you can't make it back down to South Philadelphia before the polls close. So any eligible registered Philadelphian can vote in any polling location, but they'll have to vote provisionally. So they can walk literally right in and vote provisionally. So that's one example. And the thing about provisional ballots is there's already a stigma that provisional ballots don't count inside of our community. It's misinformation, disinformation. So when a voter does vote provisionally, for their vote to go through, that builds confidence in the process. That's why it's so critical.
Typical election, do you see how many provisional ballots?
Well, it fluctuates from election to election based off turnout. In the presidential, you'll see a lot more. And of course, in the local election, like we might say November the 4th, it may not be as many, but it can decide who's going to be inside office. Okay.
Expect that every county in the Commonwealth will be redesigned?
Unlike with the mail ballot redesign, where the Pennsylvania Department of State had clear, direct authority to require counties to adopt it, in this case, it's been a matter of really selling it to the counties. Every vote is precious in every county, whether you're running elections in Philadelphia or you're running elections in Elk County. I know from visiting all 67 of them, sitting down with their election directors, sitting down with their county commissioners, that they're committed to doing what they can to make it easier for voters to cast their vote and have it counted, and not set aside or disqualified because of a simple error. So working together with our counties really helped inform this layout. It's heartbreaking when you're processing mail ballots or provisional ballots, and because of a simple mistake, like the voter did not sign it in 2 places, that vote doesn't end up getting counted. It's not a question of whether that voter was eligible. It's not a question of whether they voted on time. It's not a question of anything else like that. It's a simple technical error. So we're doing our part, being driven by data, being driven by looking at what has occurred in the past, what kind of mistakes voters make when completing an envelope, whether it's by mail or provisional. And there, as the chairman said, there are several reasons why voters might vote by a provisional ballot. Say they're registered to vote, but they show up at a polling place that isn't their home division or their home precinct. Say they requested a mail-in ballot and didn't return it, and also didn't bring it with them to the polls on election day. So they have to vote by provisional, so the Board of Elections can make sure they didn't vote by mail and cast a provisional ballot. There's a number of reasons why a voter might use a provisional ballot, and the chairman is right. There's sometimes this impression that provisional ballots are only counted when an election is close or something like that. That is not the case. Provisional ballots, provided they're cast by an eligible voter on election day and completed correctly, get counted in every election, well past when people start paying attention and stop asking about how many votes are left to be counted and all that. The people at the Board of Elections at the county level work so hard to make sure every one of those ballots is processed, whether it's a close election or not.
buy-in there has already been?
Well, we've been working closely with them from the beginning, making sure that this is informed by them. We're not trying to force anything on anyone. We're also setting up something of a mechanism to help provide more resources for the county. So when they do order new provisional ballots, we can assist them with the financial cost of that, because it's that important.
Well, thank you for coming out, and we're going to do a group picture.